nobody thought about putting money away for the marketing. Like as if the album is supposed to sell itself.
Treat this like you are the CEO. You are the CEO, and your manager is the manager under your company.
It is not the manager's job to get you a gig. It is a booking agent's job.
No one on your team can work harder than you.
Good morning. My name is Corey Porter. I'm 1/3 of Strictly Business Network. My partners, Jason Glenn, Darnell Jenkins, and myself curated this event to highlight the importance of building a strong team. We created Strictly Business Network specifically for the sole purpose to educate people on the other side of the entertainment industry that has absolutely nothing to do with your talent or your gift. So I'm here to let you know this won't be the last. This is only the first of many to come. And we appreciate each and every one of you coming out to support us and receiving the information that we are giving today. Strictly Business Network is an educational platform. We will continue to build it out by having open conversations and panels like this, but we will host them in person and also virtually. Through our social media, we will post endless tidbits of information, touching on things from trends in the entertainment industry, productive marketing strategies, down to basic things as reading your analytics and using that data effectively. Y'all ever heard of gatekeeping? I know you done used the term gatekeeper before. Well, we're here to open the gates. We are building our community and we're opening up all our resources that we currently have and the ones that we will attain in the future to our people. So let's get back to what we're here for today. The focus is clear. We are here to dive into the different roles of building a music team that not only thrives, but endures the hardships that come with navigating through the music industry. We recognize that behind every successful person in the entertainment industry lies a dedicated and cohesive team that has one shared vision and a commitment to excellence. Whether you're an aspiring artist, a seasoned manager, a visionary producer, or a dynamic agent, this event will offer valuable information to navigate through the ever-challenging landscape of the music industry. Throughout the remainder of this video, you will hear a lot of valuable information. What you do with it, hey, I don't know. But I hope that you listen, understand, overstand, and apply it to your everyday situation and further your career. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who is a Houston native. She is the founder and CEO of Diamond Entertainment, which was launched in 2005. She landed her first client while still in college at the great University of Texas Southern. Go HBCUs. And with that grind that she put together, it introduced her to some major players around the Houston market. And from there, she grew to get a position with the artist Will Lean of the Botany Boys, which she was exposed to a lot of industry leaders at that time around the country. Her motto is, if you are a manager, be the voice of the artist. She is currently working with artists like Mr. Wired Up, the Grit Boys, the Original AJ, Bone the Mac, and Music Making Mommy. In 2019, she won the award for Manager of the Year from the Down for the Underground Artist Awards. Outside of the industry, she's a prominent figure in our Houston community. She's all about uplifting, educating, and empowering artists. Let's give a warm welcome to Ashley Oliphant of Diamond Entertainment.
Thank you so much for having me here today. As he stated, my name is Ashley Oliphant, also known in the industry as Diamond. I have been working in the industry for 18 years, and I love what I do in this industry. Today, I'm going to share with you a few important things that I've learned along the way and why it's essential to build the right team in the music industry. Today, I want to talk about why it is important to educate yourself on the music business. What are two forms of education that I recommend? First off, I recommend you get basic knowledge of the entertainment industry. There are tons of books, tons of resources that are out there, from YouTube to books to podcasts to different things that you can really delve into that will help educate you on the music business. A few books that I would recommend is the All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald S. Passman, and then Music, Money, and Success by Jeffrey Barbeck. And the last book is The Plain and Simple Guide to Music Publishing by Randall Wexner. Now, after you have read the books and you studied, you want to, first of all, you want to study because you don't want to build a team that you don't know what their roles and responsibilities are. Building a team is essential, but if you don't know the things that they're responsible for, then you're just building a team for nothing. You also want to delve into artist development. Artist development is the key thing for an artist to succeed and grow within this industry. You want to identify your identity as an artist. You want to figure out what is your brand, what is your pitching, what is going to set you apart as an artist. You also want to use artist development to help you learn how to get in the studio, how to do songwriting, how to do song structure. You want to be able to know how to arrange your song and put things together that will help you to become a better performer and a better studio artist. You also want to learn in artist development how to perform on the stage. Artist development is that place where you will learn how to jump on stage and really know how to capture your audience. How are you going to make the audience believe in what you're selling and what you are doing? And the last thing artist development does is to help you find your audience. Who are the people that will gravitate and listen to what you have to say? There are tons of ways to find your core audience, but you won't learn that unless you dive into artist development. The next thing that I want to talk about is you need to take time to focus and understand your need as an artist and the key team members that are needed at different stages in your career. So think about this. Before you hire a team, you must know where you are in your career. How many artists are in here? Okay. So do you know what stage of your career you are at? Because if you don't know the stage that you are in your career, then how do you know what team members are key for you at this point in your career? Now, you also need to assess your career goals. What are your future 5-year, 10-year, 20-year goals that you have that can get you to that next level? What do you see yourself doing in 20 years from now? And once you figure out your goals, then you need to execute and write out a plan to get you to that and where you want to go. You need to write out your accomplishments that you had so far in your career. What have you done in your career that is so monumental now that is helping you get to that next level, but you don't know how to get to your 5-year or 10-year goal until you have figured out what you have done already. After you've assessed your need, you can then develop a team because you can't develop a team until you know where you are. Now, if you're at the beginning stages of your career, you might not need anybody but a marketing manager or a marketing director because you're at the beginning stages of your career. You don't know pretty much anything, but you need to probably get somebody that helps you create content or helps you with developing a marketing strategy and plan that can help you promote to grow your audience. You might also consider getting a music consultant at this point. You might want to get a person that knows the ins and outs of the industry that can help transform your career, provides you with advice, and provides you with the things and tools that you need. Now, if you're a mid-level artist, meaning you've had a few songs, you've had a few videos shot, you've put an album out maybe, or you've performed on several stages, and at this point, you might want to consider hiring a manager. you might want to consider finding that manager that can help take and elevate you to the next level. Sometimes that music consultant might turn into your manager. So it's always good to have someone in the industry that knows what they're doing to advise you and give you counsel when you are in the beginning and mid-level stages of your career. This is before you get to the Drake, before you get to the Cardi B level. So that is what you should do. Now, when you think about finding the right team members, let's look at being an artist as a CEO. You are the CEO of your career. Remember that. When you are the artist, you are the person that's at the top. You are the Jeff Bezos of your company. You have to be able to treat this like a business. Treat it like you are the person that is in charge, and you should know every single thing that's happening with your career. The biggest thing that I see artists say is, well, I don't know what my numbers are. I don't know how to find this. Or the biggest thing artists say is, I don't understand publishing, or I don't understand things that get them money in this business. So you have to be the CEO and the HR of your career. You want to make sure that you know everything. That's why I said education is so important, because if you don't know the things that go on with your career, how do you expect to hire somebody who does? Because you don't know if they know. Somebody could sell you a dream and tell you that, hey, I know this, that, and the third, but actually you don't know if they know it or not, because you haven't even taken the time to get basic knowledge of the business. Everyone on your team should believe in your vision. Don't get people on your team who don't see the vision that you have. That's why it's always important to write out a goal, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year goal, and figure out what your plans are. Because if they don't see your vision and you don't understand what their vision is for you, then y'all are not going to work. You have to get people to see and understand what you're trying to do as an artist. Now, some of the key players on your team is your production team, your artist manager, your music consultant, your attorney, your publicist, your marketing manager, and then your distributor, your booking agent, your DJ, and all that comes a little later. But I want to touch on just a few. I want to touch on, first, your production team. Everything starts in the studio. Nothing in this business happens without the studio. So you want to find the right production team. The production team includes your studio engineer, your producer, your songwriter if you're a singer, your mixing and mastering engineer. Now, sometimes your engineer in the studio is the same person as your mixing and mastering engineer, but sometimes they're different. If you go up in higher levels of your career, there's going to be one person that records you, one person that does a mix, and one person that does a master. Never going to always be the same person. So you want to know what each person is responsible for. So if you have a producer, that's the person that's creating the soundtrack for your music. That's the person that is making the beat, making the composition or the melody for your record. Now, the producer is an important role, because if your production is not up to par, then your music is not going to be up to par. And if your production does not correlate with what's going on now in the trending era, then you might want to start looking out for producers. Producers, just like songwriters and engineers, are paid on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes producers are paid strictly an upfront fee, which is a work for hire, and then from there, they don't get any points, or they do. It just depends on how they negotiate. A studio engineer is paid per hour. So you would pay a studio engineer per hour, and they would help record, mix, and master your music. Now, the next person on your team would be your artist manager. Now, remember, these are not in any particular order because it's based on where you are in your career, but I just want to tell you a little bit about what they do and what their roles are. So as an artist manager, most managers are paid up to 20%. Sometimes I've seen managers take 30, and that's because if they're doing the business role, the road manager role, and the personal manager role, they probably would take up to 30%. But most typical managers get up to 20% of your overall income. A manager does not make money until you make money. Now, this new age way that managers are doing is they're charging you a monthly fee. Now, they're charging this monthly fee because they know they're not going to make any money off of you. And if a person is telling you that they want a monthly fee, that means they do not believe in your career. Because a manager should be getting commission. Most managers should be getting a commission. We are not attorneys. We are not people who are on a retainer or a monthly salary or hourly salary. Most managers are getting up to 20%. Now, your manager, your personal manager, is responsible for strategic planning. Your manager is supposed to help you plan out your career. Your manager is the person that is supposed to make sure that your visions are being executed. You also get career advice and a guidance from your manager. Your manager is that person that is going to advise you on your career. They're going to tell you, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. Now, if your manager is scared to tell you that your ideal is a bad ideal, then you probably don't need that manager. You do not need a manager that is going to say yes to everything you do. Because sometimes as an artist, you come up with big, bright ideas that do not make sense. So get you a manager that is not going to be kissing butt or whatever, okay? Now, your manager also is the overseer of your entire team. Your personal manager is the person that everybody on your team has to check into. They have to say, this is what's going on in this department, and this department. That's why I said, treat this like you are the CEO. You are the CEO, and your manager is the manager under your company. Just like Sam Walton is the CEO of Walmart, and then he has district managers and store managers and things like that. That's how you treat this. Your personal manager is that person that is the person that is overseeing your entire team. You want to make sure that that manager you have understands everyone's role. I'm not saying they have to be an expert at everyone's role, but what I am telling you is they have to understand what each person's role is in order to be able to oversee and assess what they're doing. Your manager is also handling your day-to-day operation. So your manager should know where you are at all times, especially if something comes up. If you have a show coming up and you went out and partied last night and your manager can't find you and you're supposed to be at the show in an hour, that's not a good look. So your manager should be the closest thing to you. That should be the person that can figure out how to fix any problem. And they can't fix a problem if they don't know where you are. So they should have contacts to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever your team, whoever your spouse is, they should have contact to that. Whoever you stay with, they should have contact to that, because your manager is essentially your best friend at this point when it comes to this business. You also want to have a manager that understands how to negotiate contracts. Yes, you do have a lawyer, but your manager should also be able to have a grip knowledge of how to look at a contract to know what to tell the lawyer to fight for and negotiate and help out and assist with that. And also, your manager acts on your behalf. When you are not available, your manager should be there to make decisions for you. So if you don't trust your manager, it's not going to work, because your manager has to be able to speak for you when you're not there. The next person that you need is a music consultant. Music consultant is similar to a manager, but they are not paid on a commission structure. Sometimes a music consultant is paid a flat rate, just depending on what it is. And sometimes they're paid on a retainer basis, meaning you can hire that person and use them anytime you need. They're there to just strictly give you advice, tell you what you should do, listen to your music, tell you how or what single should come out. That's it. They're just an advisor, but they're there to consult you and help you understand where you're going in your career. Now, a publicist, everybody eventually in their career is going to need a publicist. You want to get in the media, right? You want to get on the Breakfast Club. You want to get on Hot 97. You want to get to all of these places. Well, that's what a publicist is. A publicist is a person that takes what you have, takes your content, puts it into the media, and gives you media placement, brand building, media training, media relations. The publicist is a person that acts as the liaison between you and the media. That's all they do. A publicist is not a miracle worker. A publicist is not a person that can make you famous overnight. Because if you don't have anything for them to do PR for, then you really don't need a publicist. You need a publicist when you start making traction. When you have all the DJs in the club playing your music, you have all the people inquiring about you, then that's the time where you need to start getting a publicist. The most important person in 2024 on your team is probably your marketing manager, your marketing director, or your videographer. They're all one and the same. Nowadays, there's videographers who can do your marketing management and come up with your marketing plan, come up with your strategy, or you can get with people who strictly focuses on developing and devising a marketing plan that will help take you to the next level. That's the main thing in 2024, is to have someone who is focused on helping you create your graphics, your content, your videos, helping you with rolling out your single, and making sure that your single gets the right push and marketing that it deserves. Now, all of these people on your team are very important, but they can't do anything unless you have a manageable situation. So if you don't have any traction or any income coming in, you might not be ready for a team. You might just need to get your homeboy from down the street to be your assistant or your roadie that will go with you and just make sure you're straight at certain things. Because if you don't have income coming in on a steady basis, or you don't even have the basic knowledge on how to secure and get the income, then you might want to just focus on you and your friend building it out. Now, no, I'm not saying your friend needs to be your manager. No, you need to hire a professional to be your manager, to be your lawyer, to be your publicist, to be your consultant. You need professionals who do marketing. You need professionals that can help you take it to the next level. Now, the next thing that I really, really want to touch on is building, managing, and evaluating your team. Because it is so important to build your team. You have to find those people who truly, truly believe in what you're selling, what you're doing, what you're offering. You also want to treat your team as a business. I'm going to say this throughout the whole day. You want to make this as a business. You are the CEO of your team. And if you don't treat it like that, it will fall by the wayside. There's no way that you can have multi-million-dollar corporations out here surviving without a team. So you have to treat this like a business. You have to make sure that everyone on your team is doing what they're supposed to do. That goes back to education. If you don't know what each role is, how do you know if they're doing what they're supposed to do? Now, just because you hired a manager to oversee your team does not mean your manager can hire and fire your team. That is you. That is your team. And if your manager comes to you and say, he's not doing the job or she's not doing the job, then that is up to you to start evaluating and deciding whether you want to let them go. Evaluating your team is a consistent basis. You must evaluate your team every quarter. You need to look at your team, see what they're doing, what they're not doing. Are you meeting your goals? Are you meeting your expectations? And if you are, then that is how you determine whether you hire or fire somebody on your team. Remember, you are the HR, you are the CEO, so you need to make sure that you have the final decision. Yes, your manager is there, but your manager cannot hire and fire anybody on your team. Now, I do want to give you some examples of people who are highly successful that have teams. Taylor Swift. Y'all know Taylor Swift? Okay, I'm sure. So let me tell you who Taylor Swift has on her team. Taylor Swift has a tour manager. She has a publicist. She has a director of radio who actually researches, figure out what market she's hot in, pitch her out to radio, get her music sent to different radio stations and promotions. She has a lawyer, and she has a personal assistant / road manager. Her personal assistant acts as her road manager so they know what they're doing. Let's talk about sports. In sports, Jalen Hunt, which is the biggest quarterback in the country. Hurts, thank you. Sorry. Didn't hurt, okay? Didn't do that right. But I do know he plays on the Philadelphia Eagles because I do watch football, and I just said his name wrong, right? But he has an all-female team. Hint, hint, you might want to think about that. But he has an agent, a publicist. He has a media relations person, and then he has a client relations person. He has a marketing person, and he has a personal manager. So you might want to consider all-female teams. There's a lot of females out here winning. There's some guys out here, too, that are doing their thing as managers. So think about, in conclusion, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about, what does it look like for you to have the perfect team? I want you to realize and think, who do you need on your team that is going to take you to the next level? Your team only moves when you move. If you're not moving and you're not doing anything and you have not put any effort into pushing yourself, your manager cannot create miracles. Your team cannot create miracles. I want you to remember that. Nobody is a miracle worker. It only moves when you move. If you don't hit the start button and you don't start running, then your team is not going to run. I promise you, as a manager, I cannot want it as more than you. If my belief in you is bigger than your belief in yourself, then that's a problem. And I want you to know that you need to be the driving force for your team. You are the leader of your team, and the people on your team can make or break your career. The team is only as strong as the artist and can only work as hard as the artist. No one on your team can work harder than you. Now, I want to say thank you, first of all, to Strictly Business for allowing me to be here to share something that I love. I love music management. I love doing what I've done over the last 18 years. And I hope that I shared a little bit of insight on some things that help you understand what the roles of each person on your team is and why they're important and why you need to be the driving force for your team. Thank you for your time.
Our next presenter is also a Houstonian. She's a transactional entertainment lawyer who practices entertainment law, focusing on music, film, TV, podcasting, influencing, and NIL issues. She is a sought-out-after guest speaker. She has spoken countless events, like the annual Texas Entertainment Institute in Austin, Texas, the American Bar Association, the Houston Bar Association, Houston Lawyer Podcast, Capitol View Arts Hip Hop, Urban Music Summit, Houston's amazing 102.5 FM Break Texas Radio, as well as being featured in Voyage ATL Magazine, the Texas Entertainment and Sports Law newsletter. Also, she was quoted in Rolling Stones magazine. She is also a former professor of 7 years in the music business department at Houston Community College, where she helps students build a solid business foundation to launch successful careers. She is the founder and principal attorney of the Hay Law Group. Let's put our hands together and welcome Miss Stephanie Hay.
All right, here we go. Welcome. Good morning again. So, my first question to everybody is, who knows their worth? And when I say their worth, I realize I work with a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, producers, and it's a question that comes up all the time. So just by a show of hands, when you are navigating in this business, trying to figure out what you want to do, how much to charge, how many of you are confident in knowing, like, this is my worth? Show of hands. Okay, we got 1. Okay, 2, maybe. Okay, it's not uncommon. That is definitely not uncommon. Okay, so we're working on understanding what our worth is as artists, as producers, managers, all that good stuff, right? Okay, so next, the other question I got. How many of you consider yourselves creative entrepreneurs? Okay, about half the room. Okay, why are we saying not sure, maybe?
I had to think about the word entrepreneur for a second. I was like, okay, so that's like independent business owner.
Okay. So everybody in here should be considering themselves a creative entrepreneur. At the core of what this business is, it is about you being a creative entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is probably even more important than the creative part, because as we are in the music business, it is more about the business than it is about the music. The creative part, the studio, that is all well and fine. But without us understanding the business, understanding our worth, understanding that we are a part of a creative community that is making art and having to put a price tag to it, and it's not a price tag that is published on the internet. It's not a price tag that is publicly listed. It is a price tag that essentially I have to make up, which means I also have to know what my worth is, right? And how do I come up with that? Where are my people to help me figure out what that even looks like, right? And everybody's worth is going to be different, right? And as we gauge what we're doing and how we're doing it, you may know internally, and this just goes back to just pure motivation, right? I know my worth as a person. I know my worth and what I feel like my art actually should be going for in the marketplace. But as I build, that's going to come as well, right? It's going to get more expensive to work with me as I work with other people. But the core of what this is, we should know our worth at the beginning and know what my goal, what my aim is. Like, where I'm trying to go is I'm trying to make sure my beats go for 50 grand, for 50 grand a track. That's my goal, even if I'm not starting there. But knowing your worth at the beginning is going to be imperative to us getting there, right? So, as the great poet laureate said, 2 Chainz, they asked me who I am and what I do it for. And I say, I am here because I am here to change the world by making sure that I bring diverse representation to creative spaces and also empower entrepreneurs to know their worth and take nothing less. I want you to know your worth. I want you to understand the creative spaces that you all are stepping into to make sure as we're moving forward, when I say diverse representation, as many of us, if you look at the producers that you love, things of that nature, all of them likely look like us. Most of the creative spaces, they look like us. These are Black and brown people of color. But when you look behind the scenes and you look at their teams and you look at who is representing them, oftentimes it is not people that look like us. I want to make sure that the teams are representative of the people that are on the forefront. I am not a forefront person. This right here ain't what I do. I don't really like to talk. I'm pretty shy in the real grand scheme of things. I'm an introvert. But when I come and I'm working with you all in this creative space, I love the creativity that you bring, and I see that there is a need, and I want to be able to fulfill that need because God didn't give me the gift of producing. I can't act, I can't sing, I can't do none of that. But I knew I wanted to be in this space. I wanted to work with you all. And so my gift to you all, as we talk about diverse representation, is to be that member of your team and to also be able to say, hey, y'all, this is your art. How do we protect it? And how do we make sure that you're getting as much money as possible for what you're bringing to the table, okay? So as we go into today's presentation, of course, we're talking about building your team and what does that look like? And essentially for me as an entertainment attorney, I want to kind of break down and demystify what the broader term entertainment attorney does, and actually talk about like what I actually do and bring to the table and things of that nature. That sound good? All right. So let's go. So first slide. This is about the team. So I've broken it out. Dom did an excellent job kind of giving you all a overview of what that team looks like. But I like visuals. I realize working with creatives, y'all like visuals too. So here we go. So of course we have the artist. I put here as the artist that you are an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur because even if you sign with a label one day, there's still an entrepreneurship component to that, because what they're going to do is pair you with an A&R person that's going to help you stay on budget, but it's going to be up to you and your team to create that deliverable. That deliverable becomes that piece of work, that it becomes that album. They're going to make sure you have all your paperwork together, your clearances, the producers you work with, all of those things. Yes, the label is there, but they're going to give you a liaison, which is typically in this day and age, that A&R person, but everything else is going to be up to you and your team to then deliver to the label, who then will clear everything, okay? So that's why your team is so important, because whether you stand independent or whether you go into a label, there's still a level of responsibility that you have as an artist, as the leader of the team, and as the entrepreneur. Every artist, entrepreneur that I know, they have to start a business. They have to have some form of LLC. Even if you're lending out your services to a label, let's say as a producer, or you're lending out your services as an artist, guess what? They need to know who to pay. They want to pay your company. They're paying your company because from a tax perspective, you want them to pay your company, and then you can divvy out all the other people you need to pay on your team. But also it helps create a structure. So no matter whether you are a signed artist or an independent artist, you are still considered a creative entrepreneur in this space, okay? And of course, then we break down, we get to your manager. And with the manager, you have a personal manager, but you also have your CPA, and you also have a road manager. So you have kind of like a combination of 3 different types of managers based on the phase in which you are in your career. The first manager you're going to encounter is somebody like Diamond, which is going to be your personal manager, right? They're the people that are going to shop your deals. I get asked all the time, do you shop deals? I don't shop deals. That's not my skill set. That's not the gift God gave me. Managers, booking agents, in some sense, but typically your manager is going to be the person that you're relying on to do that activity. So they're helping you do that. Some of them do artist development, things of that nature, but that's the person you're leaning on first, is your personal manager. Typically, they're oftentimes the first person on your team, even before me. Once you grow as an artist, you get an accountant or CPA or somebody, because you need somebody not necessarily to sign the checks. You don't want them signing your checks. You're signing your own check. But you do want somebody, if money is not your strong suit, to help you manage the money that is coming in, make sure people are getting paid, things of that nature. That's what a business manager is going to do. They're going to make sure, as a creative entrepreneur, you can one day go buy a house because they've gotten your tax stuff all together, right? They know how much money you really are bringing in. So that's what that business manager is going to do. But you're always going to sign your own checks, even if the manager is printing up the checks and putting them on your desk, okay? And then finally, you have the road manager, and this person works in tandem with your personal manager, and primarily their goal is to help you on the road. When you go on tours, radio tours, things like that, oftentimes as you become a bigger artist, your personal manager is handling so many day-to-day activities that your tour manager is specifically focused on just what is going on tour, managing all the things that have to do with tour. So from a big tour to a small tour, they're handling it all. So that's when you want to bring in the tour manager. So this person doesn't necessarily sit on your payroll all the time. They are kind of like a contracted person that you bring in only when you're going on tour, and they help manage things like that. Now, your tour manager and your regular manager or personal manager can be one and the same at times, depending on how big you are as an artist, but just giving you a broader scope of like, okay, what does this look like? You will also have at some point a tour manager to help navigate things that you do on the road, okay? So now you have your booking agent. This is the person who gets y'all gigs. So the booking agent is going to assist in doing placement for gigs. They help set up tour dates. They do things like that. Your manager and your booking agent, they work in tandem. It is not the manager's job, even by law, it is not the manager's job to get you a gig. It is a booking agent's job. They are the ones that's helping try to get you to open for your favorite artists or to connect you to artists that are touring and they need opening acts. That is the job of a booking agent. At some point, you will get the services of a booking agent to help you procure, that's the technical term, help to procure employment, because getting gigs is procuring of employment. Now, yes, your manager might do like the spot shows and, if you're doing a club appearance or things like that. But on the bigger picture, the booking agent is going to be the one that tapped in to know who's touring, what's going on, the festivals, things like that. That's where the booking agent comes in. They're going to know what festivals are going on and how to get you into those festivals. With a good manager who may know some booking agents, they can also work in tandem to help procure that employment at a festival or a little small concert venues and stuff like that. They're going to also have access to the venue. So that's what the purpose of your booking agent is going to be, okay? And then you have your radio promoter, playlist promoter. In this day and age, everybody's trying to get on a playlist, right? We know the big playlists like Rap Caviar and those premier playlists that you want to get on because let's say the top 10 songs are like the top 10 songs in the country, but that's also how people like myself discover new artists that I've never heard of, right? So you're looking at that radio promoter to help with playlist placement, to help get your song spun on the radio, whether it's at college radio stations, some of the small local stations. That's generally what their job is. And remember, you want people that are experts in their niche. You don't want somebody so broad, it's like, I know a little bit of this and I know a little bit of that. No, you want somebody who knows exactly what they're doing in their niche, because then guess what? They can focus solely on that. That is their only responsibility. And if that's their only responsibility, guess what? They can't drop the ball because that's the only thing you're supposed to be doing, right? They can't say, well, I did all this other great stuff, but they dropped the ball over here. Well, no, all you're supposed to be doing is giving me radio placements. What are radio placements at, right? So that's the purpose of the radio placement person. And then you have your marketing team. This is probably the biggest gap in artist development or in the indie artist space, is that nobody thought about putting money away for the marketing. Like as if the album is supposed to sell itself. I mean, at some point, unless you Tide or Procter & Gamble, where the product's been on the shelf for 11 years, guess what? Just like everything, just like any other product, do not make this rocket science and don't think too hard about it, right? You are trying to sell a product. Every product has to be marketed. So who is your marketing department? This can be a third party, right? You can hire a third party agency, but you should have money in your recording budget to market your product. If all you're going to do is record it, go to the studio, make the album, take some photos, go, spend some money on getting the music video done for, YouTube, and then release it on DistroKid, I mean, you still fail. Like 99% of the time, it's not going anywhere. And you just spent a whole lot of money for nothing. So you have to think about creating a marketing budget for your music to say, who is my target audience? Where are they? What's the music? Where am I trying to get my music heard at? Because without that marketing budget, some of your biggest indie artists have marketing budgets. Like Dolph, RIP, but Dolph worked with a third-party marketing company to get, is it PMRP or whatever his paper money route, his label to where it was, because he worked with a marketing company. So you must have some money in the budget for marketing. Without money in the budget for marketing, I mean, you're just doing a hobby for your friends to like go look on YouTube, okay? All right. And then finally, it's the attorney, and we'll get into that in a second. So overview. So you hear all the time people say, okay, eventually you need an entertainment attorney. Well, what exactly does that mean? The word entertainment attorney is a very broad term. It can include sports. It can include intellectual property, which is trademark and copyright. It can include music. It can include television and film. So within that broader umbrella, there's breakdowns. So you have you have attorneys who just practice music. You have attorneys who just practice television and film. They just practice sports. You want to get specific for your particular area. Now, some of these attorneys practice in multiple areas, or we can call them genres or whatever you want to call them. They may practice in these multiple situations, but you want to know specifically that the attorney you're hiring has done work in music, because music is a beast within itself, okay? Like generally, at some point, most attorneys will break up and decide like, okay, I'm just going to focus on this area. And if they're just focusing on music, guess what? They're not going to be really able to do your television and film deal, and kind of vice versa once they decide like what area they want to work in. But in general, these are the things that they're going to represent. So they're representing commercial endeavors, record company studios, things like that. Those are all the things that they're going to do as your entertainment attorney. One of the things you want to be aware of is conflicts of interest when the attorney is playing multiple roles. I get asked all the time, but was just asked like, hey, do you do management of artists? Do you do help in other areas? No. My job is to be your lawyer. My job is to make sure that you are owning your rights and that you are protected in all capacities. When I start playing and wearing multiple hats and I start saying, okay, I'm going to help shop your deal at, Sony. Now, when I get in the midst of the Sony deal, now that I'm no longer the manager because I've gotten the deal to Sony and now I'm acting as your attorney, am I really trying to close the deal because I want to make sure I'm preserving this relationship with Sony, or am I closing the deal in your interest? Is the money most beneficial to you, or am I trying to play both sides of the fence because I want to make sure I can bring another artist to them? So I'm not really cutting the fool with them when they give me some BS contract, because my interest can be both ways. So my goal, what I do, not some attorneys, I will say they do represent in multiple capacities. I don't, but it is because I want you to always know as the lawyer that I have no other horse in this race but you. My only interest, my only goal is to make sure you are satisfied in the deal once it's all done. And once that's done, that's it for me, right? So, like I said, there are multiple attorneys that do multiple things. I'm just not one of them. So if you are hiring a entertainment attorney that's doing music, you want to make sure and just ask the question, right? What do they do? What services do they provide? And if you want a attorney, because some do, they want an attorney that is going to be able to do, multiple things. If that's what you want, just be aware that the conflict could exist, right? And be okay with it. Now, these are all the things that a music attorney is going to do. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but essentially, as you can see, it's negotiating a bunch of deals, it's branding, it's trademarking, it's copyright protection, it's royalties, things like that. These are all of the kind of activities an entertainment attorney, specifically in music, is going to do to help their particular artist. One thing, and the distinction I want to make for you all, is there are litigation attorneys and there are transactional attorneys. I am a music transactional entertainment attorney, meaning I'm going to make sure all of your paperwork is together. I believe in preventative measures. I'm like your insurance policy. That's my job. That's my goal, is to make sure we never have to see the inside of a courtroom, because guess what? Our paperwork was in order. There's not an issue here, right? That's my goal. Now, you also have litigation attorneys. Litigation attorneys are the attorneys that oftentimes you end up hearing about on the news because Cardi B is suing somebody, Meg Thee Stallion is suing somebody. Those are litigation attorneys, and their job is to take that contract to court. There's a copyright infringement matter, they're going to court. Breach of contract, they are going to court. I am not the attorney that goes to court. I am the attorney that tries to make sure from a safety perspective and preventative perspective, we've done the things that needed to be done to prevent us from going to court, because I'm trying to save you money on the front side so you're not spending a whole lot of money on the back side, okay? So just understand the difference as you're engaging with attorneys, because there may come a day where you need a litigation versus a transactional entertainment or music attorney. Done? And then, when do you need one? This is probably the biggest question I get all the time is when should I hire you? Typically, it's when it's time to make a deal, when you know you have some things brewing that are important, when you know you're about to sign a big, and I don't want to say big contract, but a substantial agreement that will require you to have somebody look at it, right? That's when typically I'm going to be engaged. You and your manager will typically work through some of the like gigging situations, booking things. But when the time comes and you have agreements on the table, that's when I'm here. I'm here for your trademark matters. I do trademark application for clients. And when you need your trademarks, that means your stage name. That means, your production company. Things like that can be trademarked. So I do trademarks. We register your copyrights. We discuss making sure you're properly registered with your PROs and things like that so that your monies from a royalty perspective is coming in. That is going to be my job up front. But that is when you typically will need me. It will not be all the time, but when the time comes, you will know. I always say, like, go with your gut instinct. You know when you need something versus it's like, I think we can do this without the necessity of having an attorney. So go with your gut instinct, and typically it will always lead you correctly. And then finally, let's just talk about these agreements. These are the agreements that I'm going to say when asked, like, what agreements you should be aware of, what agreements I should be familiar with. These are going to be your agreements. Your recording agreement, your producer agreement, exclusive versus non-exclusive. What does that mean? These are the key agreements, in my opinion, that every artist, manager, producer should be aware of, and not an expert, but vaguely familiar. Because guess what? In the studio, you're already low-key talking about some of these terms that are going to be incorporated in these agreements. So you need to be at least versed enough to have the basic conversation about publishing rights. Are we splitting them, and how are they going to be split? Without a contract, it is a 50-50 split because y'all didn't decide on anything. So the court says, well, I guess everybody own equally a share. When, let's say, as a producer, you felt like, you did 80% of the work, so you should earn 80% of the money. Well, if you didn't agree to that, typically, because we are working and I say this lightly, good faith, by agreement, because typically y'all don't have no piece of paper in the studio. Essentially, what you're saying is, okay, I agree that, we're going to split this 80-20, and then we will get our people to write it down, right? But at least we've had that conversation. If for nothing else, y'all, have the conversation and do not be afraid to have the conversation. If you are afraid to have the conversation, that's how when I get on the phone with Lil Boo Boo manager and they saying, he said so and so, but if there was no conversation, now we're in this 50-50, or now I'm having to argue about, like, my client did more work than yours. And so that's why we're asking for more of a percentage in the royalty share, right? So those are the things you want to kind of have the conversation about ahead of time so that there is not any, like, confusion, okay? So you're having those, I'll put non-exclusive versus exclusive up here. And that's primarily if you're doing beats, understanding what you're getting when you say, I got an exclusive beat versus non-exclusive. I will say now, I'm not a fan of buying beats on BeatStar, things of that nature. I know it's probably a shame, but I'm just not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it because there are too many loopholes. It's just too much. So with that being said, if you're going to do it, understand the difference, okay? Oh, featured artist agreements. Finally, this is when you get somebody to come on your track. Your featured artist agreement is going to be like, hey, I want you to feature on my track. What are you giving this artist? Did they write their own lyrics, or are you feeding them what they're going to say? If you're feeding them what they're going to say, guess what? They don't get no publishing because they don't write nothing. All they doing is repeating verbatim what you told them to say, right? Versus them saying, okay, well, I did provide vocals, which is a contribution to the sound recording. So now they want a percentage of that. And what exactly does that look like? That is not 50% of the master recording, because their vocals are, honestly, in my opinion, may not be worth that, but they may be. But once again, having the conversation and negotiating that up front is going to save you and me a lot of trouble when it comes down to doing your contracts, okay? I think we're going to do a Q&A in a second, so I'm going to let Corey come back up. But yeah, y'all have my contact information. I put cards in the thing, and we're about to start Q&A. Let's go.
So we're going to do a quick couple of questions on the panel, and then we'll open it up to the floor, and you guys could ask Miss Stephanie Hay or Miss Ashley Oliphant whatever questions you like. All right? Quick question. First question. It's to both of y'all, whoever want to take it first. Lately on social media, there's been a lot of talk about the ownership of footage from music videos to just regular content. Could you please explain who has the proper ownership of footage that's shot by a videographer, and what can they do as an artist or the person that they're shooting to protect themselves with that coverage? I mean, with that footage. You understand what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. I do think.
Okay.
Okay, so according to copyright law, the person who shot it owns it. Point blank simple. If you take a picture of me with your camera, technically you own that picture, even though it's my image, right? The Kardashians beef about this all the time with the paparazzi when they be posting pictures of them because they feel like, well, it's theirs. No, it's not. The person who took the footage owns it, right? So if you are hiring a videographer or a photographer, again, the reason why you need a contract that has work for hire language in it is to say, it doesn't matter if I paid you either. Let me be clear about that. You don't have a contract. You hire the videographer or what have you, right? And you pay them. So you, and by verbatim, they say, yeah, you can have the footage. That doesn't matter. Copyright only transfers in writing, period. If there is no written agreement, you never transferred anything. You paid them for their services. That's it. You just paid them to come and provide a service to you, which was to record it. If you wanted to also own it, via that written agreement, in there you have language that discusses work for hire that says you are transferring any and all ownership to me as the artist for the services that you provided. That is when what they shot becomes yours. Unless that happens, they still own the content and they still have the right to do with the content what they so choose. You just paid them for the services that they provided.
Work for hire is the main thing. So she said it.
I got it. Extended part of that. So if the artist, let's just say we're talking about an artist. So if the artist uses the content, does the videographer have the right to come and put a cease and desist on it?
Yes, because you didn't have anything in writing to prove, let's say to YouTube that, no, we had an agreement. So they go to YouTube, they ask for it they do a takedown on us on YouTube, right? So you can go on YouTube and say, hey, they posted my video without my permission. This is my music, whatever it is. It's a copyright infringement. YouTube by law has to take it down. Now, when they take it down, they send whoever posted it a notice on their account that says, hey, this video was flagged for copyright infringement. If you can't prove to us that you own it, it's going to stay down. But if you can, we'll put it back up. With that agreement, that's going to be the agreement that you send to, YouTube to say, here's the paperwork that the person signed saying that I own the video or what have you. But if without that, you don't have a right to it because there was not anything in writing. Copyright only transfers only in writing. Yes, the internet will tell you copyright is created as soon as it's, captured in a tangible form. But that's it. After that, everything else by copyright law has to be transferred in writing.
Ashley, what is the biggest annoyance you deal with when you're managing an artist?
I would say my biggest annoyance is an artist that doesn't listen. Cause you can save them, headaches if they don't listen. And you're telling them what you know is to be correct, and they still do it the way they want to, and then you're at ground zero trying to fix up the mess that could have been avoided. So that is probably my biggest annoyance, is that they just don't listen to what you tell them that will save them money in the long run.
Stephanie, what is the proper way to copyright your music from a lyrical standpoint and an instrumental standpoint? What are the proper steps to take?
Okay, so via copyright law, like I said earlier, copyright is created immediately. As soon as you transcribe it, whether you record it or whatever, it's done immediately. But when you're talking about actual legal protections, the Copyright Office only considers a song when it's the lyrics plus the music. But if you've only created one, let's say you've only created lyrics, right now you got it as a poem. So you can copyright that as a poem by itself and be fine, right? If you created instrumentals, you can copyright that music by itself. But when you're talking about an actual song, you have to have a component of the two things to actually make it that, because that's what they consider essentially making a song. the composition is those two elements. So you want to copyright them through the copyright.gov office. They have applications. You can do it published or unpublished. Unpublished essentially is when you're saying, hey, I created this work and I just want to make sure in the event it ever gets out to somebody else that there's evidence that I owned it, even if it never made it out to the world. Because unpublished means you never put it out there for public consumption. It never made it into, to consumerism, right? Versus if it is published, what you're telling the Copyright Office is on July 1st, 2023, I published this song and it is out there on YouTube and Spotify and places like that for people to hear. So it, of course, brings more visibility. The more visibility it has, the more likely it could potentially be infringed upon. So that's the difference between published and unpublished. So if you have stuff you just want to protect that you haven't put out there yet, you can do it on a copyright application for unpublished works. And then once it is published, you do have to go back and file it again. But some people have like huge archives, and so they want to just protect that stuff off of just GP, and that's the way to do it on the unpublished application.
A couple more questions. Ashley, you said you gave a rundown of the different roles and the different responsibilities of the players on the team. But in 2024, who would be the first role you would take as a upstart, a new artist in the game?
As in 2024 for me, if I'm a brand new artist, I need a marketing director, period. Because the way this industry is moving so fast, your marketing has to be on point. There's no sense to go hire a manager when you have a non-manageable situation. There's no need to go get a lawyer when, like Stephanie stated, your copyright starts at inception. So you have a light copyright, but if your song starts to take off and blow up, then that's when you would hire Stephanie to come in and make sure your ducks are in a row. But I would say first things first is hire you a marketing manager or a marketing director that can help you really navigate these trends that are popping out and going on the industry. Because if you got the book knowledge, you know a little bit of basics on how to do your BMI, your ASCAP, your sound exchange, your media base, and all of that. So if you know the basics of that, you can semi-register your music yourself, and you and a marketing director can go bootstraps and make it happen.
Okay, so we're gonna We're gonna come to a conclusion on the panel. We're gonna open the floor up to you guys to ask questions to either Ashley or Stephanie, or throw them to both.
How y'all doing? I'm Dren. I'm a music producer. When you're doing work for hire, does that require you to give royalties? When you're doing work for hire for like people to play instruments and stuff like that?
When you're hiring somebody just to come in and do instruments, work for hire, no, I would just pay them a flat fee, because you don't want to end up splitting royalties with everybody that could potentially have contributed to the work. So if you're just having somebody come in, play some guitar, play some strings, play a piano, whatever, I would do work for hire. It's a work for hire agreement, but really you're just contracting them. So pay them a flat fee and be clear that no, you don't have to share royalties with them.
I agree.
You mentioned the copyright.gov. So would that essentially be the same as like registering that song through your PRO prior to it being released, or is that just totally separate?
Totally separate. I'm glad you asked that question. Good question. So that's a huge misconception among artists. No, your registration, they're using the word registration because, it's just the definition of it is what it is. But registration with a PRO, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, Sound Exchange is not the same registration as the copyright.gov. This is a government entity that is saying in the event somebody infringes on you and you have to take it to court, we are defaulting to the entity in which we designated to say you own this work to see if you registered it. You cannot file a copyright infringement lawsuit without having a copyright certificate in hand from copyright.gov. They don't care if you registered it with BMI, CSAC, and all those places. Those places are simply a collection agency for your music. It is imperative that you do that, so you're not saying, I put the song out, I ain't seen no money. Well, if you ain't registered with the places that collect the money, no wonder you ain't seen no money, right? So you have that element, and it's important, but at the same time, what you're also going to do is register it with copyright.gov, because in the event there's an issue with infringement, in the event you want to sell or transfer that work, it's got to go through copyright.gov.
Good question. Before you ask the question, what does PRO stand for? Because some people may not know.
PRO, your Performing Rights Organization. They are ASCAP, BMI, and CSEC are the big three in the U.S. ASCAP and BMI are free, so you can just go online and pick one. People ask me all the time, which one should I choose? Honestly, it all flushes itself out. Just pick one. Once you become a really big artist, they will eventually give you like a liaison. You can get loans from them, stuff like that. Like they have it, but essentially they're just letting artists come and register. So then eventually when you rise to the cream of the crop, that's when you'll actually get a phone call from somebody like, hey, congratulations on your great song. I'm your liaison now, right?
Yeah.
And then CSAC, it requires an actual invitation. They're a smaller organization. The other two are public nonprofits versus CSAC is private. So like they don't publish their rates. They don't publish a lot of stuff because they're private run organizations. So people who mix and master typically are paid work for hire flat fee, right? It is your very high ranking, probably top 1% of people who mix and master that are actually going to end up seeing a royalty, like
Like a cut.
Exactly, right. So they have done work in the business for so long and they are essentially sought after. That's how they end up being able to negotiate. But typically, no, those individuals are not going to see any like royalties. They're going to get paid a flat fee. Now, granted, as you become more well known for said service, of course, your fee goes up. Don't stay at the same fee. But it typically is going to always be a flat fee until you get to a point where you're able to negotiate from a leverage perspective that you're entitled to, and when I say a percentage, it's still typically only like, I think at the most 3% or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but like the instrumentalist and production, that's the royalties, and then
correct. Like the producer side of it is where you're typically going to see royalties because they look at it as somebody who's doing the bulk of the work. By the time you get to mixing and mastering, all of the elements are there. You just clean them up.
As more just a service. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Actually, no, I have not fired a client. Sometimes we just part ways or we decide, it's not like I'm saying, oh, I don't want to work with you anymore. Sometimes it's more so I will say, at this moment, we're not a good fit, but it's not like I'm firing you from a job, but we still are very close. Like every single client that I ever work with will still to this day say, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's pretty cool. Like I have a producer that I started out, he was a rapper. I started out managing him as a rap career, and I knew it was going nowhere fast. And so I persuaded him to go into production, but I don't manage producers. So we parted ways on that front. Had another artist who I knew it wasn't going nowhere fast, and he became a publicist. And that's just, I'm good at finding what you're good at. And I can tell you if it's going nowhere fast. So I don't fire people. I just elevate them to a new level.
Queen of the pivot.
There you go.
Good, right.
I have a question. To test from the Just a Tip podcast. I'm also an actor. I got a question for y'all. So say I was doing a music video with an artist and I'd be like, hey, can I get royalties from that music video if I was in it?
You want to take that?
No.
Yeah, I'm going to say no too.
What? No. What? No.
Are you thinking because of leverage? Like you may be so popular, like you.
Yeah.
There's even.
Well, you don't typically get royalties off a music video anyway, right? You get monetization from YouTube.
You can monetize the music video, but the person who owns the copyright monetize it. It's like saying there are tons of people that contribute to a film. A music video is similar to a film. everybody on the if we gave a royalty to every single production person and every person that worked behind the scenes to create a film on and off camera, there would be no money. So somebody has to take just a flat fee for the services they provide. Going back to my original question, know your worth. So get your money up front. If you feel like you a high dollar actor to be performing in this music video, make sure you tax them. But after you tax them, go about your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good question, though. Hey, me personally, I'll just take the flat fee, but I was, for people behind me,
Good question. Let's say anything.
Good question.
Yeah, dope question.
My first question, I suppose, is for Ashley. Do you have any advice for artists who are trying to market themselves in 2024, like be their own marketing manager?
So if you want to be your own marketing manager, the first step is research. You have to know, have you put out a song yet? Okay. So if you put out a song, then you should be on your Spotify artists, your Apple for artists, and all of your artist accounts on these DSPs, which is the distribution service providers. Once you are on there, you need to figure out who is listening to your music. That is how you determine your demographic. You need to see, do you have a high male audience, high female audience? Are they all in the United States? Are they overseas? Where are they at? And then once you figure out where they are, then that's when you tailor your marketing. You might want to do social media marketing, or you might want to do influencer marketing, and you want to find people who are in those geographical areas that can help push and elevate your fans where they are. But you need to know your market. You also need to have a Instagram business page for your artistry so that you can see your stats and know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers or know your demographic, then you really are doing a disservice to yourself. Does that help?
It does. Thank you. I also have another question. So let's see. This is kind of a two-part question for you. Do most entertainment attorneys have their own firm? And I also wanted to ask, are you required to have like an official law degree to become an entertainment attorney?
So are you required to have a law degree? Yes, you are. So yes, we have Juris Doctorate degrees. So technically I have a doctorate degree. And then of course you still have to take the bar. So not only do you have to have the degree, you have to take the bar. Now there are some things that are happening as far as them changing some of the rules related to that. I am not versed enough to know what they're doing, but I have heard that they are changing some of the rules where in some states you don't necessarily have to take the bar. You do like an apprenticeship, that whole thing that Kim Kardashian was doing. Similar things like that are starting to occur. As far as having your own firm, some practitioners practice solo like myself. So I own my practice. I'm a solo practitioner. I just have, administrative type help, right? But then you have other attorneys who work in an actual firm that they didn't start, but they're essentially an employee of the firm and they help bring in business. So, I mean, it's several ways as usual with Skinny Cat.
Hello, how y'all doing? My name is Curtis All-Star Chuck. My question for you would be, I've spoken with you before a long time ago, but anyway, so I understand that you're a lawyer for Texas or Houston and Atlanta. Are there how can I say this? Is there differences? Is there real big noticeable differences between the laws in Texas when it comes to music in Atlanta? Or Georgia, I'm sorry.
No. So entertainment, and this kind of goes to the general question of, do I have to have an entertainment attorney in my specific location? If you are suing somebody, then yes, because typically that contract was drafted in the location in which you live or the location in which the person who gave you the contract lives. So you'll need a attorney in that particular location. In the contract, usually somewhere in the back, it'll talk about jurisdiction, and that's how you know, like, okay, if we're going to bring a lawsuit, this is where it has to be brought. And that attorney will need to be specifically licensed in that place in order to assist you with bringing that lawsuit, unless it's federal, because copyright is a federal law. But outside of that, there is no difference because the industry, this particular industry, the entertainment industry, we're all following basically like the same standards and guidelines. You just need somebody to know what those are. as far and how things are done in the business in order to assist you. So location when you're working with a transactional attorney isn't really as necessary or important. So I have clients in California, I got clients in Atlanta. They're pretty much all over because we're doing transactional work. Now I will ask about jurisdiction, and I ask about jurisdiction because I need to know if something occurs, if we're the drafting party, if I'm drafting on behalf of the client, where exactly do you want this lawsuit to be brought? If it's going to be brought in a place you live in, and let's say that might be Florida, then I'm going to make sure the jurisdiction states that it's Florida, and I'm going to tell you, okay, now, if something happens, I may be able to assist you in locating a attorney in Florida to litigate this, but I won't be able to litigate it for you. Versus if we're getting a contract, let's say from Universal and their headquarters is based in New York. Well, they know you don't live there. What they're telling you is, if you ever want to sue us, you got to come to New York.
Yes, I'm dogs to the problem. I'm a music artist. Excuse me. I have a question on the management side. So, do you suggest initially with an artist, is it good or best to initially say let's have a time frame to work with each other? So say if the artist like, well, maybe let's see how things work out for a year, or are you more so on let's see how things go and let's see what we, how can I help your career or whatever as a manager? Or do you suggest saying, well, let's give it a time frame and then let's see how things go? Because like you mentioned earlier about some people do say, or the new age thing is, let's do a 30-day, do monthly. And I've heard other artists mention like, yeah, they want to give me a chance for a month or 3 months and see what I do. Do you suggest that? Or do you suggest, okay, let's build, let's get to know each other better. Let me see what I can do for your career.
Well, first things first, before you even go with a particular manager, get a consultation with that manager so that way you can meet them, ask questions, figure out if it's going to work. Then if you and the manager have met, the manager knows your needs and see where you are in your career, then yeah, you might want to take it on a trial basis. The time frame would be 6 months. I would never suggest you work with a manager for 30 days because how effective can you be in 30 days? There's no such thing that you can do within 30 days to take an artist. You can't take an artist from A to C in 30 days. That takes time. So you need to be able to at least give the working relationship 6 months. It needs to be something documented on paper what the pay scale and the commission structure is going to be. What I mentioned earlier was monthly was managers are now charging a flat rate. Now, I don't recommend going with a manager that charges a flat rate because what is their benefit to push and promote and go out and get jobs and gigs for you if they're already guaranteed $2,500 a month? Then what is that motivation for them to get up out the bed and go hustle to make sure you get these big contracts and big deals? That's just my opinion. But each his own.
Okay, on the music publishing side, it's going to be whoever wrote the song for lyrics, whoever wrote the musical composition. So typically that'll be a producer. If you bought it from a producer, hypothetically online, they may be still owning their music publishing rights. And then you have the actual, some people actually then have the in-house producer. So let's say an artist bought the beat offline, they wrote the lyrics themselves, but then they come in the studio and they need a producer there to actually help mold it and bring it all together. That producer may want also a portion of music publishing, but that producer may also want a portion of the royalties that come from the master recording. And so we talk about the master recording royalties, that's the artist / vocal performer, the person who put their vocals on the track. And then sometimes a producer, that producer now granted is going to transfer copyright ownership in the masters to the artist or to the label, but they will be asking for a percentage or what they call points on the album or on that song. And that could be, the range is negotiable, but they could be asking for points. And that's where they're going to get royalties from. So those are like your top 3, I guess, individuals, 4 individuals or however many, because you look at these rap songs now, even some of these other songs, and they'll have 50 people on it, and they're all getting, 0.5 or a percentage of publishing. So, yeah, it varies, but those are going to be like, I guess, the 3 titled people that I'm saying are going to come. Okay, so the artist. So you have the vocal performer who could be the artist, and if that performer is also if the artist also wrote. So the artist is going to get a portion of music publishing because they're considered one of the writers. But then on the sound recording side, they're going to get royalties from streaming and distribution because they are also the vocal performer on that particular track. So they're making money essentially on both sides of the song. I struggle with content.
Yes, anyone on stage.
I can help you with that.
Go for it.
Because I run strictly for the streets, so I do a lot of marketing on the social media side to help artists and things like that. You got to look at your analytics, and that'll tell you exactly what you need to do. But at the bare minimum, I say you should post 2 things a day, at least something in the morning. From my experience, I noticed for some reason the first thing people do is get on the phone in the morning. So you should be putting something up like 6, 7 in the morning.
See, now I was going to ask, so what's the quality? Because that's twice a day. I mean, are you just posting sketches or vocal?
You're going to have to see what your audience like.
So,
because like on my page, I have 30,000 plus followers, right?
Yeah.
And they come on my page and they say, oh man, you post negative stuff, right? And I say negative, just like, how the hip hop music is now, like a Sukihana, like, what that is. But that'll get 50,000 views.
Yeah.
But then I go post Nas' new single and only get 800. So you don't listen to the comments. You look at the analytics.
Yeah.
And that'll tell you exactly what you post. You look and see, like she said earlier, if you have more men on your page, you want to post something that's more visual, sexual to get their attention. If you have more women, you probably want to post something a little more positive because women not all the way in the gutter like men are.
So I got to say it.
And just watch the activity. If you post, I would say 2 times a day for sure. But like me, I probably post like 7 or 8 because it's like I'm going to keep going until I get a hit.
Are you posting photos or videos?
Posting music videos, new singles, advice in the music industry. I mean, just a wide range of
I don't understand. Are these like reels or are they like?
Well, now on Instagram, you really technically can only post reels. Even if you're making a regular post, it's still a reel. So it all falls under the same. And I advise you to go live every day for at least 15 minutes.
No, that is true.
Double down on that.
Test out everything. Like what he's saying is true.
But listen, like the people who are doing this, they get into the bag. They get into the bag.
You be about it. Yeah. Respect that.
Test it out because you don't know what your audience likes until you test it out. Certain posts that you post, they might not like. Certain things that you do, they fall in love with. And if they like a certain type of content from you, stay with that content. He is absolutely correct. With the one thing I've learned over the years is you catch people when they're in their downtime. The first thing is they're getting ready to go to work. So when they're getting ready to go to work, they're scrolling to see what is the feed going on. When they're going on their lunch break, they're scrolling to catch up on what they missed between their window while they were at work. And then right before they get into traffic, they want to scroll and get a little entertainment so they can think about something while they sitting in traffic. And then right before they go to bed, they want to double check to make sure they didn't miss nothing for the day. So that's kind of how you should post. I don't, because I'm not an artist. I'm just a manager, so I post when it's necessary. But
I got another tidbit for you too. This a little tip. Next one gonna cost you. When you get a post that does well, you go back under it, let's say 12 hours or the next day, and add new hashtags, because that makes that post new again, because they put it underneath the new hashtags that you use. So that'll run you up too.
Yep.
Right. I'm glad you said that because I really forgot to say that. Great point. But my thing is that's the only way you should do it, because you should have your post set for the next 3 days. Because if you
using to schedule your post,
I use Instagram and I use this app called Later. And my thing is the reason why you want to at least have 3 days scheduled, because if you're trying to work to do content, edit content, post content, when you gonna make the content? So you need to set up a block, schedule it, then you go work, come back, edit, set up the block, go work. And that's how you get your activity and keep consistent on social media. So guess what, y'all? I'm not gonna lie to you. The time has come. But we appreciate everybody showing up, giving the feedback. I pray that y'all got questions answered that will help you guys go forward in your career. As I said earlier, this will not be the last time we do this, but a lot of the ones coming up in the future will be virtual. So tap in with Strictly Business Network, our Instagram page, because that's where we'll be updating a lot of information, letting you know what's going on. And also with Strictly for the Streets, we'll also be doubling back on everything that's on Strictly Business Network. So as I said, we have easels around with QR codes. Please, everybody, go click, snap the QR code and follow us, follow our pages, check out Ms. Hay's website, see what services you need. Go to Diamond Entertainment, tap in with the management side of it, go to Strictly for the Streets, come do some promotion, and tap in with Strictly Business Network for sure, because we're trying to educate and we're trying to do it to get you guys on the right path and going in the right direction. All right? Thank y'all.